In fact, I switched to drinking a huge glass of water.
Recording in progress.
That's great. Before I touch my coffee, I used to be able to sit and hold my coffee, drink it. I drink my water now. Glass of water before.
All right. It is Thursday, July 23rd, and this is the Lunenburg Finance Committee meeting, and I am calling it to order in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page. We also have a Zoom up. If you want to get the Zoom, go to lunenburgma.gov, check the calendar, and you can find the Zoom link in the call-in information on the agenda. And with that, if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So by way of announcements, I guess the one announcement that probably everyone's heard by now is there will be a additional special town meeting this year. The date of it is to be determined, probably on Monday. The select board will determine that, open the warrant, and we'll go through a process. By law, it needs to be within 45 days of the petitioner's submittal to town clerk, so that puts it no later than September 3rd. But the date itself will be determined, I think, on Monday. I sent to the committee some correspondence that did go through myself, and I think Jen weighed in on it, to the school committee and the finance committee and the select board, just with some of the information relative to the dates and how everything kind of plays out. So I've been sending you guys emails this week. I don't have those as agenda topics per se, but we'll be working through the agenda. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Are there any other announcements? Okay, is there any public comment from the public? From the committee? Okay. Town manager and finance director are both taking vacation this week. I think finance director is also off next week. So there'll be no reports from them. All right, so moving into current business, we're moving right along here. The first topic will be reorganization of the finance committee. And then later on, just so that we can get to Dave's presentation, he doesn't have to be with us all night, we'll talk about liaison and assignments. But I did want to start with the reorganization of the finance committee. So I will open it up to any discussion on that.
I'll jump in. First of all, Mr. Chair, are you interested in continuing to serve as chair?
I can continue to serve as chair.
As most of you know, as a new member, but with bringing some experience on the finance committee and the school committee, and capital planning as well, I am more than happy to step forward and serve in any capacity. Personally, I think that Chris has done a fantastic job as chair, and candidly much better than I ever did in my 1 year as chair, and I would love to see him to continue to serve. But it would be a pleasure for me to serve as vice chair if you all see fit.
Any other discussion?
The only thing I'll ask you, Chris,
Yeah.
thank you for offering. This past year, it was tough on you. I ask you, I don't want to be added stress for you. That's in the back of my mind, because I know you don't have a small job.
Yeah, I think none of us do. I think I got into a little bit of a groove. I think if I have a someone like Peter that can cover, fully cover when I'm away, knows how to work, setting agendas and, the coordination that goes on with it, then I think that will certainly be something that I can continue to do for another year at least.
So how does this work? Do we
So I
make?
make a
Someone
motion
make
for
a motion.
Yep.
Chris Menard for chairman, of the finance
Second.
committee.
Second.
Second.
Yep.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so I guess I'm chair.
I'll make a motion for Peter Beardmore to serve as vice chair if he's willing.
I am.
Not-
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Peter the same thing, because I remember you stepped
It's a good
down.
question.
You stepped down from the school committee because you had a new job and it was very demanding. And I'm sympathetic to that.
I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say for me, as related to it, since you're getting two very busy guys, I do work Thursday evenings. Having a regular schedule, it's how I can manage both, so if we could stick to our regular schedule, it would be great.
You work on the non,
I try to manage, so I'm working on the non-Thursday,
Under-
well, I'm there until 6:30 and then I rush you.
understood, okay. Can appreciate that. So just by way of introduction, I work in my day job, my income earning job in marketing in the high-tech realm, and over the course of my career, mostly worked for companies in the 128, 495 belt. So that obviously comes with some commuting. My current employer that I've been with for about a year and a half now is based in Needham, Massachusetts. So that's a fairly miserable commute. The fortunate part of it is that it's quite flexible. So I'm able to stagger my commute, either early or late, and I'm only there 3 days a week. Over the course of the last year, and this really kind of tore into, candidly, my ability to serve on the capital planning committee this past year, much more so than what I ever experienced on the school committee. My company was acquired, and I was part of the integration team to integrate the company into the new company. And it very quickly escalated from a 40 to 50 hour a week job to a 60+ hour a week job. The good news is that project officially ends next week, and we'll tie up some loose ends in the month of August, but I think that things, knock on wood, are going to level out for me, and I'm pretty confident that I can serve in the capacity of vice chair. Obviously, Chris and I have a long-standing relationship. I'm very well aware of how busy he is, having worked with him on capital planning, as well as on the finance committee. But I think that we will be able to work well together to make sure that between the two of us, the committee is well serviced.
Okay, do I have a motion?
You had a motion.
Well,
and a
he has a
second.
motion.
I second.
Yeah,
Okay.
need a vote.
So all those in favor of Peter as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, Peter is vice chair. The next one is clerk. So Tom is currently clerk, but I'm open for discussion and,
You want to stay as clerk?
It doesn't matter, it's not basically it means when Chris and Peter aren't around, because there's not much to do with minutes and things anyway, so there's not much. If I can do it, or anybody else wants to do it, it'd be fine with me.
Anybody else?
I don't want to do it.
I have a question for you. Is your retired schedule, busy schedule, do you think you can maintain this demand?
Yeah, well, the thing is, for me, is I go away sometimes.
I was joking, I'm sorry, I was really joking.
No, the thing, we were talking about it before, I don't have, I'm away, and I go,
retired, aren't you?
between December and March, I go away, hang out with him. And but I cannot, I was in a meeting in his bedroom, in Florida, so I
Hey,
can
no,
make. No, what was it, the extra one?
I wasn't there.
It's gastro, it's gastro.
Lot of,
Yeah.
so I can be here to do that if I need to, but anybody else wants to do it, it's fine with me.
I nominate Tom Gray as our clerk.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Right.
I think that was unanimous. So Tom, you are continuing as clerk. All right, we can stay in our current configuration for the meeting. All right,
They want to do musical chairs for
just shuffle chairs. All right, we're gonna get Peter a sign so people know who he is in the public. Be a problem. All right, the next topic on the agenda is a presentation by Green Communities on mass save programs and incentives. Dave Black is going to present that. Dave sent me the file just now so I can put it up on the screen, and I just forwarded it to everyone, so maybe you have it. Go ahead, you can start.
Excellent, so, all right, okay, so you'll present for the Zoom? Okay, perfect. All right, hi, Dave Blatt, Chair of the Green Committee. We kind of hate the title because it's not really what we do. Basically, we try to help this town get free money from the state for energy upgrades and other things for it. So recently, I won't say that recently, but a couple of months ago, Mass Save and National Grid held what they call their Municipal Energy Summit. There's 2 a year. There's one at Holy Cross in the spring, and then there'll be one down in Foxborough for the fall time. There, they get all the communities together, all the green communities together, talk about the different programs, talk about what's available, and there's been a lot of good information, and usually we try to come back and talk individually or try to just push it towards things. I wanted to be able to present to you guys so that you guys, especially when it comes to finance, capital planning, anything that you're on other than this committee, could also help promote what the Green Committee is about and what's available for this town to do, and help with the charter for the town. So I'm going to flip to next slide, which would be FY26 municipal energies. I'm going to talk about this. Basically, the big accomplishments for them is that over 90% of the towns in the Commonwealth are now green communities. There is a climate leader package, which actually gives you even more money than green communities, but there's a couple of things that are available in there. One of them I'll be talking about is this comprehensive building assessments and PPPs. These are free audits done by the Mass Save, where they have companies come in, review your inventory, talk about what you have today for energy in your buildings when it comes to energy products, the longevity of those products, as well as any kind of energy upgrades you might want to do on there. And we've had a couple of the CBAs done. We're pushing to try to get a PPP done. You can see also on the municipal school building installing, they've had a bunch of heat pumps in. We were part of that when it came to the elementary school, getting 13 heat pumps installed. Once we got involved, we were able to bump their original total of 9 up to 13 based on just incentives and grants. We were able to get them through Green Communities and Mass Save. Municipal building weatherization is something we're going to talk about a lot. The rest of these things I'm going to keep. Grant assistance is the big one too, and we'll talk about that one. All right, so incentive programs for municipal buildings. I'm up to weatherization incentives. It's just an overview, heat pump incentives, ERV incentives. Go down to the next one. We have a picture of the building. Weatherization is a big thing, and especially around here. We just had, as I mentioned, a comprehensive building assessment done on 2 buildings I had done originally, which was the one town building, one school building. So we had the public safety building, and we had Turkey Hill, because we figured Turkey Hill is the one thing that we need to look at as being something that we have to look at for the near future, near term and far term. So both of them, they showed large deficiencies in weatherization, simple little things that could be done that will help us with our energy needs, and it's basically done, through the state and through pretty much free money. So The weatherization, we'll go to the next slide, sorry. There's 2 tiers, there's 3 tiers. There's a prescriptive, which is a small building, less than 20 square feet. Up to 100 square feet, they call it Custom Express, and over 100 square feet, which really doesn't pertain to Lunenburg, but that's custom approach, large, complicated projects. We'll go next slide. Weatherization incentives for less than 20-foot buildings, like as an example for just like putting in insulation. It's $10 a linear foot. Air sealing incentives. This is just going to be like caulking and sealing up your windows and sealing up holes that you might have. They're going to offer $103 per hour. These are all done, paid through our gas or our electric utility partner. That this is through your Mass Save, through your Unitil wonderful bills you pay through Unitil to Mass Save. All this is available. The town and people should use this. So the big thing with the weatherization incentive for buildings less than 20 square feet, which we have several of those in town, is that there's no pre-inspection necessary. It's just all you got to do is say, we need it, we're spending the money, how much should we get, and talk to your representative, and they'll tell you how much you have available. By the way, I go quickly. Feel free, stop, do anything you have to, jump up and down just to stop me, but I'm going to try to go through fairly quickly for you guys. And this is the first time I'm giving this for an audience, so it's even better for me. All right, Weatherization
I
Express.
had a question.
Sure.
Who is our representative?
There's a gentleman is a name by Matt O'Keefe is for Unitil, and as Sean Kraus is for National Grid. So we have, both in this town, one supplying gas, one supplying electric. And Matt has been really good with helping get us through. He was tremendous when it came to the mini splits and helping us get that through. He got people involved that came out of the woodwork and did things very quickly.
For residents, are there any restrictions for the historic area of Lunenburg? I know there's.
No, actually, all you have to do is, well, first of all, for residents, there's the Mass Save program has that free audit for you, and then through that audit, that company that is going to try to make it, but is going to offer you all their incentives that they have available.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, you can get, I think it's up over 75% for installation alone, paid by Mass Save. Makes it almost worthwhile
You mean
sometimes.
paid by our electric bills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted,
Yeah, so it's paid by Mass Save, which is something you contribute during your electric bill too.
sorry.
Okay.
Funded through your electric and gas.
Yes. All right, so the weatherization incentives for over 20 square feet, 20K square feet, this is up to 100 square feet. You got to go through the calculations. You have to have a pre-inspection. They come up with this thing they call a BCR, benefit cost ratio. Basically, it's not a high bar. It has to be more than a half, 0.5, so more than half. So basically, they got to say, hey, if you're going to do this, it's going to save you money in the long run. Most towns, this all goes by pretty quickly. It's just, this gives, as everybody's familiar with, everybody loves paperwork, and this gives the state the paperwork they need. Okay, so now the heat pump incentives. So the state has this massive program to try to electrify everything. They want us to move away from fossil fuels, move to electricity. There's been a big push for solar. Those folks who have ever done solar panels, there was a beautiful program in the state, which was a 1% loan that they were giving you to put towards your buying your own solar panels. They were giving you the 30% tax credit on your off of your income tax and things like that. So there's some great programs. There still are some great programs, especially with the SRECs and a few other things for residential. But that's the whole thing, is they're looking for municipalities to electrify more and more. They feel they can control that better than they control gas and electric. I mean, gas and propane. So the heat pump incentives for standard heat pumps, these are the ones that you have in your house. These are the ones that we did at the primary school. Is basically the rebate is $2,000 per ton. The ones that were at the elementary school were basically $1.50 tons, so we received a $3,000 rebate per unit. There was also other incentives that built into that. An air source variable refrigerant flow heat pump is something more where you have a big unit on the roof or outside. It basically is a conversion. You're taking refrigerant, you're varying the flow of the refrigerant depending on the demands you need. It's a more expensive system, so therefore the rebate's more. The ground loop heat pump systems are the most expensive. This is where they basically drill wells in the ground. They drop large pipes. The idea is the groundwater is always at a certain temperature, so you're able to either take heat or dissipate heat into that water to help with heating and cooling of a building, okay? Not many towns that really trying to push the ground loop heat pumps, but you need a large area as well as it's expensive, very expensive, and you'll see that in a minute, later on. So, this is going to be a repeat, but prescriptive and custom, the big thing here must pass the BCR. We talked about that, the basic cost ratio of only 0.3. So that's why I'm saying they're really pushing this type of thing, to move towards heat pumps, move away from the large furnaces, move away from that as much as they can. There's also now been a new thing now they're realizing that they are making the buildings tighter and tighter, and basically what that does is it creates stale air. So what they're doing now is they're actually giving a rebate on energy recovery ventilation systems. This is where you take the recovered air, your heated air that you just took from the building on your return side, you mix it with fresh air, you heat the fresh air, and you basically try to recover as much of the heat in there, but you're basically adding fresh air back into the building that's not outside temperature. It's going to be either heated or cooled to something closer to what you have in the building today. The big one here is the building management systems. Building management systems is what controls everything. Okay, this is available for all fuel types. They're saying no changes in 2026, but there's a great incentive here for not only first-time installs, but replacements of greater than 15-year-old systems. An example here is the public safety building. So the public safety building, there is a rebate available for that when we look, because I know that it was approved for a new building management system there, and so there's a rebate available, and I'll talk about some other rebates available for that also. But this is for add-ons, optimization. So this was one of those where we were able to change the building management system, integrate the building management system with the building management system at the elementary school, the heat pumps, and therefore increase the amount of rebates for everything and get a lot of things in the systems. The rebate is 5 cents or 10 cents times the square feet times the number of sequences. Sequences is going to be exactly what you think. You heat it up or cool it for when people are there. When nobody's there, you change the temperature. If it's going to get even later in the day, overnight, you change it again. The more sequences, the more money you can get, and the more money that can go towards the system. They want you to optimize the system. They basically look at it as why heat things, why cool things when nobody's there.
Dave, are those like daily, measured daily, those
Yeah.
sequences? Or?
Well, the sequence is going to be programmed in.
But it's a daily clicker.
Correct. But it's the number of sequences. So it might be a sequence is, early morning, you have one temperature. When kids, like people are showing up, you have a second temperature. Later in the day, as people are getting ready to leave, you have a third temperature. Later in the night, you have a fourth one, so that would be 4 different sequences. And then on the weekends, you'd have a 5th sequence for Saturday and Sunday. So, the sequences could add up. And sometimes they can count as 2. So you can they'll go up to 13 sequences. So you can do 13, so $1.30 times the square footage for your incentives.
Do those rebates go right back to the budget for the building itself?
It goes towards the price of the unit that you bought.
Okay,
So it's an incentive from Unitil or National Grid right back to us.
okay.
Thank you for the questions, actually. All right, variable frequency drives and VFD motors. This is more if you're looking at it as like the sewer guys are looking at new motors. There's rebates available for them for those motors. They're also available for green grants as well. But this is actually, you'll see a lot of this is in Turkey Hill. They use VFD drives to kind of control the dampers on the system and different areas of the building. Draft fans, ventilation fans, and things like that could all be, and there's some incentives for those too. Refrigeration projects, we've had 2 of them were done just recently through the Green Grant. We had a refrigeration at Turkey Hill and a refrigeration at the high school, I think it was, middle school, high school. Project were both done. Actually, I'm sorry, it might have been at the elementary school, sorry. Chillers, we really don't do a lot with chillers here. And but there's more incentives available for that. How am I, speed-wise, am I okay? I'm not putting too much New York?
I have one
Okay,
quick question before you go on.
Sure.
The most expensive drilling that you mentioned, is
Ground
that
loop.
geothermal energy?
yes, geothermal,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's basically, they call it ground loops, but it's geothermal.
Okay.
All right, so this one I got a kick out of as residents here that have, at least, that are mowing a large lawn. So for residential, you have this wonderful $75 rebate that you get for buying an electric lawnmower, okay? If the town buys a zero-turn, electric zero-turn, there's a $3,500 rebate. So as an example, an electric zero-turn, 48-inch electric zero-turn was roughly, say, $8,000 for an electric. It's $6,000 for a gas. So in the long run, it's cheaper to buy the electric than it is the gas. It's just you got to get used to it and things like that. But the incentives for the town, they looking at this and saying it's a lot quieter. If you're sitting there in the park, you don't have to listen to the weed whacker going at the same speed when you have an electric one, or the noise and things like that. The mower's the same thing, but there's a huge push for going electric when it comes to lawn equipment and lawn things like that. That's where they feel like the government could feel they make the biggest impact when it comes to electric, is on things of the way towns and cities, the people in that town and city, their experience. So as I mentioned, going to a park or sitting there at a game or something like that, you're not listening to an electric lawnmower or an electric anything. It's a much quieter experience with a battery operated. It's still the weed whacker's the weed whacker, but still, that's not the good example.
Dave, what does the state do with respect to recycling the batteries and taking them back?
So there is a recycling program for the batteries. However, the batteries do have a long lifespan if used properly. So the batteries should last many years. But you can't just always use it for 20 minutes and then put it on the charger, because you're not exercising the battery the right way. They need a time of, the last 80% of a charge of a battery, it goes into a different mode, and you're really worrying about the temperature of the battery more, and that's why you can't really charge it, discharge 80%, 20%, and then try to charge it again each time. So that's really what they say, is use the batteries correctly, let them drain to at least 20%, and then the battery should last a long time. Okay, so school decarbonization offer. So as I mentioned, there's a big push to decarbonize our schools. Right now, they are looking at it as they did Hastings Elementary School, they Carter School, they have a couple schools here, but they've done a bunch of them that were electric, that have gone fully electric. Right now, there's 53 programs for fully electric. You're seeing that some of them have gone geothermal. These are going to basically be new construction that have gone geothermal, and a couple of schools that have gone net zero. So between the solar farms and the other energy upgrade that they have, they basically are net zero schools right now. So the idea here is this: the LEED program is a nationwide program. It's designed, it gives you basically the energy standard that you want to make for your house. There's LEED silver, gold, platinum homes that you can have depending on how efficient your homes. They just recently moved from the version 4, 4.1 to version 5, but you can use either 4.1 or 5 to do your things here. It's going to be what kind of materials you use, low emitting materials, indoor air quality, what kind of savings you have on it. So the idea is not just making it uber tight and uber efficient, but it's also keeping the air quality where it should be. The big thing here that I have to emphasize here is that there is the school districts that's looking to update or build a new school with the MSBCA. There is two programs. The core program is basically for a new school. The accelerated repair program is exactly that. The MSBA is looking to help upgrade schools. They really don't want to build new schools. They want to look at the inventory we have and look at what we have and how do you upgrade it to make it last another 50, 70, 100 years. You know, there's some schools in the Commonwealth that are over 100 years old, and why do those schools still fine? And other towns that are asking for new schools that are only 40 years old. So they're looking at that as how you look at the product we have for you. It's expensive to build a school. How do we keep it going? Okay?
Would the rebates be the same on a new building as it would be revamping an old building?
So this is revamping an old building, the ones you're going to see now. So the accelerated repair program is going to be exactly that, revamping an old building. Now, the big date I want to show you here is the next opening is January 2027. The next opening after that is January 2028. So if we don't get ourselves together and do something for January 2027, the state's going to say nothing, and it won't be till 2028, it won't be till 2029 that you would ever receive funds. So if you do it in 2027, you're going to get funds in they'll make a decision, and the project can go on for 2028. If you wait, your project's going to be out in 2029, and if you keep kicking it down the road, it's going to be even further.
When do they decide, Dave?
They decide like mid-year 2027, they'll just start to decide on the projects that they're going to participate in. Then they look at the rest of 2027 as you're building the project and getting ready and shovels in the ground for 2028.
Obviously, the problem here is the budget and capital planning timeline associated with that.
So you'll see, it's more of what you're doing here is you're putting out I would like to do this more than anything else. It's more like saying, we need to do something. You can do it in phases. You can do whatever you want. They look at it as they don't want to disturb the school. So if they're trying to they realize that large projects might have to be done over many years because of how much you can disturb the students and the learning process and things of that sort. So accelerated repair program. So the big thing on the accelerated repair program are two things: window and roof restoration replacement. There's a $300 million budget. So applications are accepted every 2 years on this. So I correct myself. So instead of saying 2027, we would be saying 2029. So now we're pushing ourselves out to 2031 before anything actually starts to move on things. But that's the thing. In 2027, there is an opening now for this program. Windows must be over 30 years old. A roof must be over 20 years old. I think we have a building that qualifies for both of those.
Is that for just schools or for any?
This is for schools. This is the schools are saying, fix your, get the schools together. Look at it as it's a huge expense to build a school. They don't want to touch a school for under 1,000 students now. It used to be 900. Now it's they don't want to touch a new school for under 1,000. And so therefore, I don't know if we ever, if we qualify, what we would have to do to qualify for 1,000 students in a school to have them help us with a new school.
So that's for new schools.
That's a new school, right?
So the existing building must not have been opened or renovated after 2010, and this is for the heat pump conversion. So that means that the primary would technically qualify for it.
So it's the heat system at the school hadn't been modified.
Right.
So it's actually, it wouldn't be qualified for an MSBA loan or an MSBA subsidies. It qualified for Mass Save and Green Communities is how we paid for it. So this would be just going to the school board, Mass School Board, and asking for money.
Right, but I was actually thinking about the heating system of the primary, because right now it's already 20 years old.
Correct, but so now the primary, though, what we've done is that because of the heat pumps, the system is only used for when the temperature goes below 30 degrees. So the heat pumps should be used for both heat and AC down to about 30. That's when they start to be the efficiency curve of how much electricity you need to heat the air that much. Gets a little bit iffier. And so below 30 degrees is the only time the heat system needs to even come on. So you have to have...
We did the building control system as part of that
Correct.
project we did last year that
Correct.
caused us to have to rejigger the capital plan.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct. And the idea is that the original heat pumps that were installed the year before were just that. They were set up for AC only.
It was standalone.
Standalone. Right. So now that we've incorporated into the building control systems, you're able to get these incentives. So the,
It's the whole entire building on heat pumps now?
No, well,
no, there's
most of the
13 more,
building-
there's 13 more to go. There's like the cafeteria, a bunch of the offices, the nurses station, that section of the school still needs to be
The
done.
classrooms are done.
All of them?
Yes,
I think it's all of them.
yeah, all the classrooms.
So just one point on the MSBA program, or a couple points on the MSBA program. First of all, I had not heard about the 1,000 student threshold. That's new information to me, so that's interesting. And I'm curious if that is a goal or a guideline, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
One of the issues that the school board has run head into with respect to Turkey Hill is ADA. And there's a formula based on assessed value and investment of any upgrade that goes into that property that triggers a mandate for ADA compliance. So I believe the assessed value, the last time I checked on that building, was roughly $17 million. And I don't know specifically the threshold, but I want to say it's like a third, right? So if we go and spend $5 million on that building in any capacity, then we are triggering ourselves to a substantial additional investment to go and bring the property into ADA compliance. And I'm using round numbers because I don't know the specific numbers. But the school committee used some grant money about a year and a half ago and kind of ran those scenarios in a study that they have. Unfortunately, I think their calculus in terms of the cost of repairs was very conservative. But just because we go and upgrade the roof or the windows in Turkey Hill does not necessarily mean we're done. Because the cost of that project is, either of those projects individually, because of just the cost associated with it, is likely to trigger an ADA event. And that's a big issue that we just have to kind of tackle at some point.
and perhaps the idea would be to staggering it over years, so you hiding things.
Maybe.
But the fact of the matter is, I look at the budget-wise, I would look that we would have to probably stagger it over years anyhow. Type of, like windows could be. And I'll talk about the windows, because we had a comprehensive building assessment on the Turkey Hill, specifically asked for that reason of what it would take to bring this thing into the 21st century. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
And if you were going to do a total over time rehab of Turkey Hill, you'd probably want to do ADA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
If that was the path we took, absolutely.
So-
Long term.
yeah.
Correct. Okay. So, once again, the heat pump conversion is not just to take, throw out your heat system. They want it to be a supplemental. They realize that the cost to make a heat pump that will go all the way down to zero doesn't make sense for a building. You need to have that supplemental to really make it worthwhile. And I'm going to go on next page, form development, revamp, acceleration. Okay, they're just talking about the different things, the air source, pulling heat from the air, heat pumps plus supplemental gas boiler. The hybrid system is the way we would look on it. This is that they basically have folks available. They have groups available to do this assessment for us, and they're waiting. They look for that. Their incentive is that they hopefully get the project.
Where are you, Dave, in the?
I'm on accelerated the repair program. Oh, no, go up right there. Oh, no, one more up.
Okay.
There you go. All right, accelerated programs, form, develop, and revamp, accelerated conversions of heating and cooling systems for direct fossil fuel dependency. All right, so this is just saying, this is the 3 different types. There's more information on the MSBA website. All right, now we'll go to the last one on this section, and that's accelerated heat pump study. So project schedule will be small scope projects, small elementary schools, small things we can do in a summer. This is, once again, we did the elementary school, we did in yes, it was yearly, but it was done since it was only 13 heat pumps, and the building management system, it was done over the summer. type of thing. This might be the same thing, large-scope programs could be over across 2 summers, or, extend the summer or something, using a swing or something like that. But they look at the project should be able to be completed in 2 years. For heat pump conversions, they look at anywhere from $25 to $180 a square foot. Nice, simple, kind of zeroes that in really, really good. I think that's ridiculous, but the biggest reason is 180 square foot. If you have a building with nothing, it's just using the old steam boilers, obviously it's going to cost you more for doing a conversion than it's going to cost you in a building that already has ducts and other things available. This one, the last one, accelerated repair program heat pump study. Sorry. Yep, there we go. It's if the higher cost is if you need service upgrades, fire protection upgrades, and things like that. Low cost is if you already have a hydronic heating and cooling distribution. So if you have duct work, that helps lower the cost. Centralized air handling system will help lower the cost, and obviously it's a matter of how much you're dealing with the students and things like that. So that's kind of a quick overview on the school side. But the big thing is there is incentives there to do for the windows, for doing the weatherization. The big one is the weatherization. They're looking at the weatherization as the huge factor. They feel that that's low money and it's low-hanging fruit to help tighten the envelope. And then they look at insulation, and then the idea would be whether it's windows and things of that sort. So let me move on to now, I'm going to skip this heat pump, accelerated pump study, and I'm going to go right into demand creation. What is demand response? So demand response is exactly that, right? Electrical needs go up in the summer. Why? People turn their AC on. So electrical needs go up in the summer. So it's how do they reduce that energy use at the peak times? And the idea is we're on options to participate. So they have a program available. So you can actually sign up for this program. It's mostly municipal, or commercial buildings can sign up for this program. And what they'll do is during peak times, they basically asking you to not turn your thermostats up down to 68 degrees or something like that. In other words, keep it up higher. So you can actually, as a residential customer, you get $50 for signing up. You get an incentive for each time you use it, and things of that sort. So it's actually not a bad program if you're going to be not home during the week, if nobody's home, and you don't really care if the temperature in your house is going to go up to 80 while you're away, but it's a way of making some money. So some folks that were at the summit were talking about that they've made like $200-300 for a summer just doing that for their own residential thing. This is also available for towns and commercial buildings. So the idea here is that you can either have targeted dispatch, where you can say, okay, I'm okay for maybe 5 events during the summer, or you can say, okay, you can use my building and we're okay for 50 events during the summer, type of thing. So this would be, say, if Turkey Hill's not used during the summer, if we let the temperature go up a little higher, we could get incentives back from the state on that. This is an eye chart, but you can't see it here, but they talk about schools and schools K through 12, and they average annual payments of around, $7,000 a year for, K through 12 schools for that. They do, obviously manufacturing makes the waste treatment does the most, because what do you care if you cut the electricity back a little bit on waste treatment? But the fact of the matter is there are incentives there. They have average kilowatts curtailed, could be up to 600 kilowatts, and those folks are making about $10K a summer just for that.
How do you prove that you did this?
They actually will limit the electricity to the building. So I'm going to say, they didn't go into a lot of details of how, but there's basically, talking to the National Grid or these folks, they can go through the steps for us of how we do that. So
Will they have control over the temperature?
not as much, I don't know if they have control. So to tell you the truth, I don't really fully understand how they're doing it, but the idea would be is that curtailing the amount of electricity that can go to a certain building.
When you're talking about events, you're talking about maybe there's an open house for kindergartners, like, is an event like a time frame in the summer where they're opening the building and lowering the temperature?
No, so it's actually, an event is when they say they're going to need peak power,
Okay,
and you volunteer to say, yes, you can use, you can limit my power.
okay,
They look at the grid and they look
Okay.
at what the temperature's gonna be.
So the
And they
opposite
can
kind of-
predict it.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's just
So
like,
you know the deal. Basically, when we had the heat wave here, and they were all telling you, worry about the grid, that's exactly that. So at that point, yes, maybe we agreed that the temperature in the building went up to 82, and they said, okay, fine, here's some money back. What I'm basically here to say is, there's programs available. And, maybe, perhaps with a little creative thinking, we can utilize some of these programs. So what support do we have? So I'm going to say this is going to be a combination of different things that we have. First step, reach out to your National Grid rep. This is going to be either Matt O'Keefe and Sean Cruz. Basically, those are our two reps. We also have somebody from the Green Communities, Kelly Brown, who's been very good with us and helping us through things. They will help guide us and get us people that will help us through the process. All right. The PPP is a portfolio prioritization plan. This will do up to 20 buildings. If you think about a town like Lunenburg, we have under 20 municipal buildings in total. They'll do assessment of the buildings of what's there. They'll kind of give you an idea of priority of which things they think you should do first, second, third, and set you up so that hopefully you don't have a failure coming in the future. Then there's a CBA. A CBA is a comprehensive building assessment. This is a detailed review of a single building. They go through the building. They go through all the old electric bills, gas bills. They go through what's been going on, and they basically give you tell you things that you can improve right away, as well as give you a plan to electrify at moving forward.
How much does that cost? Is that free?
You ready?
I am.
All right. The PPP. The PPP is the product portfolio. Both of these are free.
Okay.
So your mass save dollars have paid for this. We have been pushing for a PPP. The Green Committee was trying to get ready to do a spring grant request. So we were pushing for a PPP. Then when that got delayed, we asked for some CBAs. So we had some things to maybe be shovel-ready projects. However, we didn't have enough dollars. The idea is that you want to we're able to ask for up to $250,000 in Green Grant. We want to have enough projects that it adds up to that $250K. So if they chop a few things off, we're not going to be a thing. But a PPP is just exactly that. They look up to 20 buildings. It's a good starting point. It's going to tell you highest potential for energy efficient. It's going to tell you how long they think the systems are going to last and different things like that, and get you ready for things. And this is done by folks like Rise Energy, who did our CBAs, or other folks through the Commonwealth.
Would you do a PPP for all the buildings, and then if they say, okay, these 3 buildings are the ones that need the most work, then do a CBA for that?
You can do a PPP first, and then just the CBA, you can just decide which buildings you want to do. But yeah, I would look at it as whichever ones they said do first, let's do a CBA and start moving things. The CBA is basically getting you shovel ready for a project. It's they're going through and giving you the incentive numbers for us to fill out the chart to be able to ask for either Green Grant funding or go to our utility providers and ask for incentives.
How long are those studies good for, those quotes?
I'm sorry?
How long are those studies or quotes good for when they assess the building?
They're still good. They'll be good for at least a year.
1 year, okay.
But this is on the CBA side. And it's a matter of they're looking for you to, it's more to get to reaction. And I think it's good for longer than that, but they talked about it helps you get a project ready for the next year. They realize funding things don't happen overnight. So the CBA looked at weatherization, full or partial electrification, looks at controls, looks at heat recovery, looks at the building maintenance, the building control systems, looks at the windows, looks at just simple things like lights and motion sensors for lights and things like that. Any possible way to save on your utility bills. So we've had 2 CBAs done. This is the public safety building. The chart you see up front, this becomes an eye chart, and I apologize for that, but the chart you see up front is what they're saying is the energy. The first one is the basically energy control maintenance things. So they talked about windows and exterior weather stripping. They showed us pictures of it. They gave an estimate on the cost. They talk about the payback and time. And this is without incentives. They're saying that the cost they're estimating is $31.50. As I mentioned earlier, there's incentives from Unitil, National Grid, Mass Save to actually help pay for that. But window and exterior door weather stripping should be a no-brainer type of thing. They showed where they have on some of the windows, skylights, you can actually see the weather stripping popping off and things like that. And I can send you guys, if you wanted, the complete CBA for both buildings on that. Improved roof and attic insulation. This was especially pointed out. We had a meeting where Matt O'Keefe was on the phone. We were talking about with both Chris Ruth and Chris Stapleton about programs that are available, and Chris mentioned about a new roof for the public safety building, and Matt mentioned that there's some incentives for if we wanted to insulate the flat, over-insulate the flat roof. Because, they pointed out here that insulation could be used, and there's some things available for that, for insulation. Lighting occupancy controls was exactly that, motion sensors, things like if nobody's in the building, why you're having certain areas heated and things like that. You're going to need a new building management system before you do that. And building management system improvements is what they actually recommended as well. And they talked about, different savings and energy costs. But as I mentioned, there's an incentive for that also. The second chart is going into electrifying the building. So heat pump domestic hot water heater with storage tanks is one suggestion they had. A air-to-air heat pump for the apparatus bay, an air-to-water heat pump servicing the fire control units, replacing the chiller. So they talked about different ones that giving you an estimated cost, and these would all be different things we can do to kind of help lower the bill. But the big one they talked about is a couple of things. We talked about the domestic hot water heaters. That one is a big one for us because we're basically, filling up storage tanks, letting them sit, heat them right now. And the other one that we talked about a little bit was putting maybe a on-demand water heater for the prison side of the unit, because we're having to have recirculators, we're having to have water on demand there for the prison side, and how much is it getting used, type of thing. So maybe a on-demand water heater would work for that. So this was the public safety building, and I'll send you the full report on there. Sorry, I didn't get it beforehand. This was Turkey Hill CBA, so they talked about exterior door weather stripping on there. They talked about window replacement. They gave an estimate of $562,000 to replace all the windows at Turkey Hill. They talked about boiler feed water pump, kitchen hood controls. That's kind of a simple one. That's part of the green grant. We can do that too. They talked about the DCV ERVs. These are to isolate the gym and the cafeteria from the main heat system, so that if the gym and the cafeteria don't have to be controlled the same way as the rest of the building because, of how you're using them and things of that sort. So that kind of gives you an idea there of some of the things they talked about. And then they went into a long thing about electrifying the school. So air source heat pumps for the gym. This would be a full displacement for the gym. Cafeteria wing, air heat pumps for the full displacement on the cafeteria side. They talked about the classrooms, a partial and a full displacement for the classrooms. So what this really gave us is it gave us a starting point to understand what these costs are and to be able to plan, more for the future as we go in. So that's things that are free from the state. I'm going to talk about, any questions so far?
One question on the primary school. Where are the controls for each of those individual?
So there's one main control unit that sits in the boiler room.
I'm not talking, okay, go ahead, sorry.
So it's basically the classrooms just have a temperature monitor, but the controls are all in a central location. So the teachers don't have individual controls for it. We are trying to get a program right now, and I'm trying to get it where the principal and the the assistant principal, vice principal, are they vice or assistant? Vice principal will now understand on the building, understand the building control system. So if you have a teacher saying, oh, my classroom's too hot, too cold, they can maybe go in and tweak a little bit and things like that. But I'm trying to make it so that not too many people have access, but, right now it's one person. And if they're going off doing 10 other things, I think we need to have, better controls there. So there's still some rooms that are colder than others, and so I think there's things we can do at some there to tweak it more.
I have a question. Of the estimated cost on the Turkey Hill, how much of that would be, out of the 5 million, would be, like, I'm just looking at the last one, it's the state will give it back to us?
So I'm not sure. To tell you the truth, I don't really know the individual incentives. It's going to matter about what the system was spec'd at. So you have the incentive of $2,000 per ton on whatever you're doing. If it's a straight air to water, air to air heat pump. If it's an air to variable, you get a little bit more. Plus there's incentives for other things as we go along. So there are incentives, and I don't know what the MSBA is offering as well for that.
So this is showing the electrical penalty for putting in heat pumps.
Yes. Yeah, so there is obviously an electrical penalty for it because you're going to be using more, electricity for it, but you're saving it on the fossil fuels. And we already have solar panels on top of Turkey Hill. We just finally found out which company is controlling them. And so we're trying right now to get access to the system so we can monitor to make sure we're getting, that the panels are all working and that we're getting what we're supposed to get. But we should be getting to the point that we actually, the 20-year lease is up, which I haven't seen the contract, but it could mean that we actually own the system outright at some point. So it would be interesting to see what happens there. So next gen, we're on our third company that owned the panels on Turkey Hill. So the first company went out. Second company, first company we had, we lost our facilities director, so we lost access to the system. Second company came in, we never got access. Third company now is in, Next Gen, and we're trying to get access to the system now.
But I guess my point is, if we start converting a lot of these buildings to heat pumps, we need to account for, we're gonna get hit with a big penalty on our power bills, like our energy bills, not just, we'll save a little bit on gas, but electricity is a lot more expensive than gas.
Understand, and I do understand the trade-offs and things like that. It's just, they are also supposed to last, they're less maintenance. There's other factors when you're going heat pumps, but there's less maintenance to the system, and they have a longer lifespan.
$1,000 worth of maintenance difference.
It is a dollar figure, I understand.
Yeah, it's a big dollar figure.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes. And I don't know what the dollar figure is right now for oil or gas, for gas for those systems today. Okay, so the second half of this project is you work with a project expediter. They call it a PEX. It's a project expediter. This is basically companies wanting your business. So the project expediter will now come in, give you a formal quote, work with the utilities, work with the state, get you all your incentives, do the project, help fill out the paperwork, and basically look to get paid. Okay? But these are folks available. These, they're available. There's many of them throughout the state, but it basically alleviates the town's, the town employees from having to do the kicking and screaming, tracking these things and everything else like that.
Are these vendors approved by Mass Save or whoever?
Correct. So they're all approved by Mass Save, so they can get, they get the incentives directly from Mass Save. So that it doesn't come to us first, it goes right to them, and then we pay whatever the balance is.
So the PEX is typically, they're like checked by Grid and Eversource and Mass Save. Like they have to submit sheets showing like what their standard costs are to make sure they're all in line, so they're not gouging you and whatnot. We used to be a PEX, I just had to do other paperwork for it.
We did a mass save project in my house recently, and it's very similar to how you would do this with a residential mass save program.
Correct.
And I was a little overwhelmed by the complexity of looking at the documentation and just kind of thinking through, different rebates for this, that, and the other thing. But when it came down to it, it was really easy as the homeowner. Like, basically, you just kind of got a bill at the end, and they had accounted for all of the incentives as credits on the bill, and you just paid whatever was left, and, the savings was really substantial. And then in the next winter, we really noted, I heat mostly with wood, and I burned a lot less wood the next year as a result of the work that we had done. So the stuff does work. It's just getting the project going, doing the work to get the project going.
I understand. Well, if you're willing to split, I have hundreds.
I'm not.
I have hundreds of rounds waiting to be split that are free to anybody who wants, that has a splitter. Okay, all right. All good hardwood that's been seasoned for over a year, but okay. All right, so incentives, I talked about the incentives already. Air source heat pumps, we talked about this. I'm going to skip over this. Mass Save School Decarbonization Offer. This was mentioned as the schools, but this is actually a program through Mass Save that they have, and I'm going to jump right into the one, training and support. This is all talking about what many towns have done is they actually, instead of a green committee, they actually have somebody, whether it's part-time or full-time, that is exactly the role of managing all of these energy projects, looking for grants, looking for money for the town. So they're not just looking for energy grants, they're looking for any grant available. So somebody comes up, says, we're thinking about doing this, I need a new video projector for my classroom. They go out, they look for a grant and write the grant for them, type of thing. So this was most of the towns that actually, a lot of them that were Lunenburg size, that's what they had. They had somebody that was their full-time job, was just to look for free money from the state for this. They also manage this program of helping to get these, move along things, push the state employees push the state and push these energy efficient programs out and through the system. So they get together like on a monthly basis. They talk about successes together. They talk about different programs they found, different things they found. I felt out of the loop, type of thing. I'm sitting there with a bunch of folks, and that they knew about these free money all over the place that I was like, wow, wish I had more time in my life.
Didn't some towns share?
So they did. So there's actually out in Western Mass, there's 4 towns shared one person. So they all had them part-time, and they all shared one person, type of thing. So that's available as well. So it would be something we can think of. So these are they usually call municipal energy managers, but there's actually a state grant now. So they're doing a grant for this. Through the Mass Save program, they're actually helping towns with the idea of getting a municipal energy manager to help manage these programs, get the programs ready, get the things ready for grant. It's just a matter of, the town has to ask more than anything else. So the focus is on the school buildings, because it's paid partially through MSBA. There is this program here, and then there's a second program that's done through Mass Save, which is usually like a junior, senior environmental studies student, environmental engineering student that the town gets to use as an intern for a while and to help them with the programs and setting things up.
The municipal energy manager doesn't look like Unitil is part of it.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't look like Unitil is part of it. Oh, but I guess we
It's
get it.
National Grid.
We got it through national. And they say 63 communities. Are we part of those 63?
No, because we don't have anybody.
Oh, this is currently not what's
Yes,
available to.
correct.
Gotcha.
So it's available to us, but we're not one of the 63 participating. So as you can see, there's 24 positions across 63. So there's several communities sharing people, type of thing. So it's for people who don't have a full-time energy. Many towns have a full-time energy person, but, or staff that can do this. So basically, the key takeaways are this. We reach out to our National Grid reps. Let's get a PPP done for the town, a CBA. Use the vendors to kind of do the work for you, the paperwork, and all the heavy lifting, and take advantage of our incentives. And that was everything I had, guys.
Thank you, Dave. Any further questions?
So have you talked to the town manager and the school committee, or are you going to talk to them?
So I'm looking to get booked for the school committee. I have a meeting with the Board of Select Tuesday, which, that's why you guys got to be guinea pigs for this presentation, that they get this presentation on Tuesday. So hoping the flow was okay, that it was worked out okay. The speed, I was okay. I didn't take up too much. I did take up more time than I wanted, but okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Dave, you're the chair of the Green Communities
Yes.
Committee? It's the Green Committee now.
Well, it's the Green Committee, yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I just call it the Green Team, so.
Okay. Very apropos. You are retiring, I've heard, and soon to relocate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there a succession plan?
We're working on that right now.
Okay.
There's a little, I'll be honest, there's a little frustration in the Green in that we feel that we're not, a lot of them feeling that not utilized well, that we're here to help, but when it's not, ever since we lost we don't have as much town participation, and so therefore we struggle to find projects. You know, the mini splits at the elementary school was us forcing ourselves upon them. We weren't chosen to look at, we were forced upon. And so we've done hybrid cruisers, we've done simple little things instead of really being able to, refrigerators and things like that. But we really would need the town boards to push to make sure these folks we feel involved. As an example, the streetlights. We were kicking and screaming on the streetlights. Yeah. The bill went down from roughly $6,000, $7,000 a month to $600, $700 a month for our streetlights. It's more than paid for itself already in a year and a half. So there's things we can do that the committee would like to do. That's kind of one of the reasons we want to change title too, because Green Committee we're not seen as, but if it was more of looking at incentives and things like that. But
Seems like a tie-in with capital planning is where a lot of the projects kind of, get ranked, maybe get introduced. That probably is something that should get integrated into that capital planning committee process.
Okay.
Better. That's my opinion, and I've been on capital planning, so.
Okay.
Because we're always looking for, is there grants and everything? I don't know.
Right, and by the way, we don't know either half the time, but that's something we can go find out.
Yeah.
Type of thing. We're happy. I think the group is eager to help. It's just a matter of, don't feel like you're forcing yourself on somebody. Please, that kind of thing.
Right. Facilities would be one of the ultimate places to start, right? Because they're on the front lines of what needs to be replaced and doing the projects.
Correct, but so a lot of times it's easier for them to just go and just do it instead of kind of waiting, they might be waiting for a grant round. So it's more of things that would be planned for a year out,
Right.
We can plan for the grant. So if we applied for the spring grant, we would have found out right about now with the idea of having to spend that money before we could apply again. So that's kind of what we ran into, is we applied for the fall grant several years ago. We received them, over a year ago, and we received the money. It took us over a year to use all that money to get the final refrigeration things done and get all the paperwork in. So it took us 18 months to get the projects done. So it needs twofold. It needs that the projects need to be pointed out, as well as the projects need to get executed at the same time. Because, like I say, this time we were waiting for refrigeration units to get the grant. So we were waiting for like $2,000 out of the $250,000 of the grant. We were waiting for $2,000 to be completed before we can even get the money back to the town.
Mm-hmm. When the money flows back, and I think that's what Tanya was asking earlier, does a because we have to budget to pay the project ahead of time, or once we are granted, you may not know this, but, I'm trying, or does our town finance director can create an account for that grant and we can operate on the negative? Basically, can we apply for grant knowing we're gonna get that money back?
So, I
And
mean,
use the full amount before we receive it back?
so you can't start the project until the grant is either, approved. However, once the grant's approved, then you're able to spend the money and then put it back in the fund, which is what we basically did. We just closed out right at the end of the fiscal year. I think it was almost the last day, I think it was June 28th, we finally closed the round and received the last $164,000 of the grant money.
So the grant's paid during the process of whatever you're doing.
Correct. You can ask for payouts of the grant, for the grant.
I think what you're getting at, Dave, and I completely understand the frustration here. Like, I get it. I've sat on these committees over the years. I think the thing that we've struggled with as a community is kind of the gap between strategy and operations, and we've had a lot of administrators kind of come and go over the years. They kind of assess the priorities as they see fit. We've, just in the schools over the last 5 years, we've probably had 4 facilities directors.
Right.
And it's very difficult to kind of shift from dealing with the day-to-day and the operational requirements of the job and downshifting into a strategic role that you're actually kind of planning these things out and strategizing how this might fit in with a capital plan request and this, that, and the other thing. And I think that's really where we've struggled. And, candidly, it was pointed out over the budget process last year, we're kind of thin administratively, right?
Yeah.
And so, leaders are chasing the crisis of the day, not the strategic stuff that, really pays out in the long run. And we're suffering from that still, I think.
Agree. And I think that, I look at it 2 ways, is that there's a lot of times the facilities directors get so involved in the day-to-day, and it's also taken them away from that to go look for these things. So we're trying to be a help. However, it definitely needs some meat behind it to be able to say, go to these guys first, then come, like it would be come to the green, then go to capital plan, and tell me how much you need out of that, the rest of it for it.
And as Anna pointed out, she's out, the confusion when it comes to the math of this sort of thing and the
Yes.
timing with budgeting and cash flow and those kinds of things will make your hair hurt. Sitting just on a committee that's trying to keep a handle on a whole lot of budgetary items, this stuff is really hard, to conceptualize relative to all of the other budget and financial related things, so.
Agree. And it's interesting, so I don't want to go too far into things, but one of the towns we're talking about had this thing. They used to have a separate facilities for buildings and then for schools. And what they ended up doing was combining the two, and they had one who was looking at strategic and one who was looking at tactical. So the idea would be is they had one who was more stronger with the management skills, they will look at tactical, and one that was more stronger looking at the systems and things like that. And they found that it's worked out. Both of them are very happy, and they're able to get a lot more accomplished. Because in the end, who has to pay for the buildings? It's one entity paying for the buildings.
Do you know which town or city that was?
I'm trying to, I know Burlington does it. I'm trying to say that was it could have even been a Foxborough, but there's a couple of different ones that have that. I think it might have also Weymouth, but a bunch of towns we were talking to had the same thing.
Yeah, I know Westford, they have one.
Yeah.
And it works, And the other thing that I think we're missing too is a lot of towns have what do they call it, the permanent building committee,
Yes.
that they look at all the facilities as, as one, and then their facilities people have that budget. So then you remove that budget item from the schools, and the good thing is they are responsible, and they have the facilities department kind of working with committees like we do here.
Yes.
And it makes sense because allows them to look at the short-term plan for needs of a building and allows them to also plan a larger project for the future.
Yeah. Well, you'll get, I mean, if you think about it, we just went through that. I agree with you 100% that having a permanent committee for looking at the buildings, which is our most expensive asset in the town, you know, as we just went through the master plan, you know, when you have a bunch of people on the master plan committee, they go away, and now you get the next committee, the capital plan committee, you know, capital committee's looking at it, you guys are looking at it, we're looking at it, the school's looking at it, and are we all talking, or should it be just one committee that's, could do all these things for the town, and just be able to, with representative for everything else? Anyway, I don't want to take up too much for you guys. Hopefully this, I appreciate the time, guys, and hopefully we gave you some ideas as we're looking at things.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank
you.
you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
You know, and are you sure you don't want to stay in this committee? You do such a fabulous job.
Thank you, but I think I got enough. My wife would kill me if I had any more committees, so, yeah.
Well, your volunteering has been appreciated over the years.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not going away tomorrow, but, you know, eventually, warmer climate beckons my
You don't have to
soul.
live in town to be on that committee.
As we learned.
Well, actually, the Green, we just, because we've been struggling for people, we just allowed Mr. Passios to sign on for another 2 years.
Really?
So, yeah. So he's from New Hampshire.
Forever. He'll be here forever.
He's not in the Green Mountain State, but, you know, he's doing something up there. So he is bugging his new town as well. But did I say bugging? I mean, he's working with his new town as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're probably saying, could you,
We love Dave.
we do.
We do. Like I say, as long as you have the spirit, that's all that matters in this town, right? You know? You can't complain from the sidelines.
He's a wealth of history.
I'll wait for him to come on Zoom, though. All right, thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Have a great evening, guys.
Two.
All right, so the next topic is additional state aid, other revenues and savings. I sent a few emails off this week, one of which was the presentation that Renee gave at the select board on Tuesday. I don't know who watched it. I listened to it at least. She sent it to me, and I forwarded it on. There's a lot of information in there, kind of timeline as to what went on from the, you know, the official governor's signature of the state aid, some preliminary meetings that were had at the town leadership level and chairs level, maybe some miscommunication that occurred and all this other stuff. That's all kind of laid out in there. I don't want to get into it tonight in this meeting. What I want to focus on is facts. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we have received the petition, and I sent the petition to everyone. That petition wording is also in the presentation that Renee sent, and I forwarded it on. So, I've had some discussions with the petitioner, who is officially Mandy Gilman, so she confirmed that today. So she will be the one that officially presents the warrant article and all that kind of stuff. She is currently working with the superintendent. I have asked the school committee to review everything that Mandy is going to bring forward, review it with the superintendent, make sure that it meets policies and all that kind of stuff. I've also given kind of a due diligence handout here. It just kind of like outlines what is the finance committee's steps to perform due diligence prior to the town meeting. It's like 4 pages long. It's based on our homeroom charter, our bylaws, general laws, guidance from, Mass Department of Revenue, as well as Association of Town Finance Committees. So there's a wealth of information out there that constitutes both best practice as well as, required and expected steps that we all, raise our right hand on and swear to uphold. So I kind of use this, I sent this off to the chairs of the select board and the school committee as kind of what I would expect as chair to occur as the steps. So I think what will happen is we will get on our next scheduled meeting, which is the 14th, I think, or the 13th, the 13th, sorry, August 13th. We should get a presentation hopefully from either Mandy or Mandy and the school committee and superintendent, right? And then it will work out such that we can have the town, the public hearing on the 27th. I think that all works in the schedule, depending upon when they firm up a date, which I don't think would be before the 27th. I think it's going to be the week of Labor Day, of the week prior to Labor Day. So what I wanted to do tonight is I sent out a presentation, well, I posted a presentation, there's a hard copy as well. Just, I want to get us all on the same page as it relates to what I believe are facts surrounding state aid, especially as it relates to the school. So I will share this. All right, so additional school revenues presentation here. It's only 3 slides. I think it's just factual at this nature. So, okay, so the state aid cherry sheet changes, right? Just, we all know this, but let's just state it, right? So the annual town budget is built upon the governor's request, right? So if you remember back, governor's request comes out, you know, January, February, it's what we base our budget on. It then goes through a bunch of iterations through the House and the Senate and reconciliation and officially becomes law. So what I have here in the table is what we got for these receipts in FY26, what was the FY27 governor's budget request, which became, in essence, what we built our town budget on, and then what is the final? So what went through reconciliation and was signed on July 9th by Governor Healy. So total school-related receipts, assessments, and charges resulted in $402,730 in increased state aid. So that's receipts as well as assessments and charges. So this is the breakdown of it. So the increase of money associated with Chapter 70 was $135,915. There was no change in school transportation. Charter tuition reimbursement went up $116,413. The majority of the money we got in the receipts actually came from smart growth school reimbursement. So that was $160,187. 2 years ago, that was 0. So that's a highly volatile kind of assessment. It's based upon smart growth reimbursement district. So it's the 40S Smart Growth Overlay District. On the next chart, I put in just for awareness.
Can I ask a question related to smart growth?
Yeah, hold on one second. On the next chart, I put in the formula for how smart growth is assessed. And it is based on Chapter 70, motor vehicle excise, all sorts of factors. So it's another one of these kind of maybe confusing, unpredictable kind of formulas. Yes.
You said that a couple of years ago it was 0. Was there any other year that was 0?
I didn't go through back all of the years, but I don't know if it was ever 0 before, but it has fluctuated a lot over the years, is all I will say.
It's fairly new, right? It's not 20 years old, it's,
Yeah, I think when we went into Tri-Town, so it's probably been around for a while.
Yeah.
And I think the reason gets into the calculation, so it had to do with the number of students in that smart growth overlay district. It also gets into how much they pay in like motor vehicle excise tax and all sorts of things. Again, it's on the next slide. You can read it. I don't want to belabor it in this meeting, but it is there. I kind of researched what it was made up from.
I vaguely recall that the issue we ran into a couple of years ago was that there's sort of like a floor of eligible students that sit within that zone, for lack of a better term. And we fell under a threshold.
That's what I recall as well.
Yeah.
As how it was explained to the finance committee.
Yeah. Which, I don't know what the threshold is or how near we are at or anything like that, but, you know, clearly the pendulum has swung in the other direction for now.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, school choice receiving tuition was $5,541. There's one question that remains outstanding on that. We got to ask the town manager on that. That's kind of a reimbursement, kind of, which is why it's an offset receipt. So we don't 100% know whether that should be included in the total of what the, you know, the net increase of state aid is or not, but it's only $5,000. So, but it's just one that we're going to talk to the town manager about, who has more understanding of how these cherry sheet items work.
So I think along the way of asking that question, which is a good one, the same is going to go for veterans
Yep.
benefits,
Yes.
because that's a line item in our budget, and I know we submit it, I think it's quarterly, because there was a presentation from that person. So is this, yeah, I have the same question that I notated for that.
Okay. The library also falls into a similar kind of receipt thing. So anyways, put that one aside. It's not a huge swing in the big scheme of things. The one other thing that we got to keep in mind, and I think people kind of miss when they look at the cherry sheet, is the second page of the cherry sheet, which is the assessment and charges. So there was a school choice sending tuition reduced. So this is what we pay out. This is the charges. So we picked up $57,000 related to that as well. However, charter school sending tuition was we were charged a lot more. We were charged $72,000. So if you sum up everything here, the total school-related state aid increase is actually $402,730. Again, with that caveat of that 5541 may come into play. So we're really looking at $402,730 that was dedicated. It was, you know, lobbied. The Senate and the House and the governor decided to increase school spending by $402,730. Is there any questions on that?
I think I hear what you're saying, and I'm sure you have an overall arching, strategy here. I think is understanding if these things are reimbursement for things that we have used, or if they are for future use, because that matters to us on to how we use the money. Because if this is reimbursement, that's versus, for future things, that's money that's available. It's not, although we're looking into buckets to understand how it's going, but it's not necessarily money assigned for something versus when we get a grant, right? That we need to buy a generator for the senior center. That's a grant that comes specific for that. So I think I'm curious for the outcome of your questions.
Yeah, so town manager did send something to Renee. Renee shared it with me, which was which line items on here went into how we built the revenue side of the town meeting budget, and everything was on that with the exception of that school choice receiving tuition. So the budget was built with those other items in mind. That's, I think, the key point on it. So everything on here, with the possible exception of the 5541, is how we built our budget. With these additional funds, I think that these are all intended for the school. But that is what the, when we're thinking about how much perhaps to put into the school, that's the number we should have in mind. Okay, that's kind of my key point related to this. The other ones were intended for veterans, for UGA, for, other libraries. They were intended for those reasons. So any of those increases were intended for that.
Yeah, but my specific question about the veterans is that how did they change that? Did they change by increasing the rate of reimbursement? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're really talking about that as it relates to the the additional special town meeting, the one that's kind of coming up on us, because I think typically we just kind of let that roll into free cash is our general.
Well, typically, we've let changes in cherry sheets roll, so, you know,
True.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
in my view, it's all appropriable money
Yep,
and, you know, is worth a conversation.
yep,
For what it's worth, though, on the school-related revenues and charges, everything that's on this sheet, these are recurring revenues and charges that happen every single year.
Yep.
And they're generally, like, Chapter 70, generally, you don't go backwards on Chapter 70. That does establish a base that you can build on. And this is a pretty substantial change for FY '27 relative to what we've seen in previous years for Chapter 70. It usually goes up a little, but not this much, for whatever that's worth.
Yep.
So, and the calculus for this is all done in arrears. So these numbers are based on our, at least for Chapter 70, largely based on our October 1st census from a year ago in our schools, and then they're expected to be spent in the year future, so.
yep. I think one thing we got to keep in mind as we're going through this and I think this was in the email that I sent to the school committee, the finance committee, and I think Jen responded to, and you guys, I forwarded it on to you guys as well, is Chapter 70 is more predictable from the perspective of 9485,250, the final FY '27 as it relates specifically to Chapter 70, is our hold harmless number that we build upon for next year. The smart growth school reimbursement may not be. It could go back to zero next year, right? And we just got to keep that in mind as we're building budgets and how we're allocating money into recurring charges versus non-recurring charges. Because I think Peter and I lived through a lot of the ESSER years. Jay, Tom, you were here as well. There was a lot of discussion about don't use ESSER money to fund hiring. I don't think we really listened, right? And I think we found ourselves in some problems because we didn't think about when it was going to be not there anymore. And the writing was on the wall on it. And I think it kind of led to some of our problems that we're in today. I don't want to repeat those problems, right? I think that's why the finance committee, having long terms, having a 7-member body, is kind of there to make sure we don't repeat lessons, right? So just for discussion, right, just throwing it out there, but that's one thing for folks to keep in mind. All right, the next, smart growth, there's an example in here on how it's calculated, but I don't want to kind of go through all of it. But again, the second bullet under the top box there, if the result is zero and negative, no reimbursement is paid. All right, there's a website for all this too that you can look up, Smart Growth. All right, the next thing I just wanted to talk about is, there was a lot of discussion about $350,000. Why was that? So the superintendent's request that was made recently was for these 5 items that are listed in the table. So a reading specialist at the primary school, a Turkey Hill reading specialist, bringing the Lunenburg vice principal up to a full-time position by adding a half. Primary school, 52 Ignite seats. It's an online tutoring. You can go online, you can search on Ignite tutoring. They give you a kind of a demo of how it works. There's actually a video of showing how it works. I think there's been a lot of success around it. It's kind of individualized tutoring, kind of on the spot at school. The licenses don't just go to one child. They can kind of be reused throughout the year.
That's good.
And then the Lunenburg High School music teacher going from 0.6 FTE to a full-time. And I understand that that has been programmed for the second half of the year. So these are the asks that are on the table as of today. Now, one thing that has occurred, And I don't have final numbers from the superintendent or the school business manager or from, on the town side as well, as the towns and schools are actually realizing some significant health insurance savings based on the new health insurance options. If you don't know what those were, so they offered buyouts that are not one-time buyouts, they're recurring annual buyouts. They also went with a high deductible with a health savings plan as an option. And people opted into that as well as the buyouts. So I've asked Chris McNamara to calculate what he thinks the total savings is from the annual town meeting budget estimate. He's going to work on that and report that out to us at some point. But it is to say that between this town and schools, you know, it's more than $100,000, I think, we've saved from the reconstituting the health insurance plans. It's my understanding that the superintendent was comfortable enough with the savings that were there to say that the primary school reading specialist could be funded out of those health insurance savings for fiscal year '27. Now, as I said, the petitioner, Mandy, is working with the superintendent for what could be the final ask related to what was, you know, the increase from the governor's budget. But I just kind of wanted to give kind of a snapshot, I think, of what are facts as it relates to the superintendent's ask, the state aid, and the smart growth. Yeah.
Do these costs for these positions, does that include health insurance? Because we've
Yes.
had that issue in the past. So
Yeah.
It does?
Yes.
Okay. That's full cost.
Yeah. You know, one of the questions was, if you have $400,000, why don't you restore the four, grade 1 through grade 4, to reduce the class size, right? Those are the classrooms that are going to perhaps approach 30 students. And there were kind of two answers given to that. One was, there's not enough money, that if you take the fully loaded cost of a teacher, it's over, you know, $100,000, as well as some of these other needs. And then the second answer was related to the fact that they believe the reading specialist and the Ignite is a better option for that. I think I also forwarded to you guys something from the superintendent that kind of went through each of those requests and why they were the right requests based on the top 5 priorities based on her understanding. Did I send that to you? Does that sound familiar?
I don't
I
think,
don't think so.
I don't think so. I saw it because they posted on Facebook and I read
I
it.
know I've read it.
I know, I'm
I
trying
saw
to
it
think.
at the school, did she make a presentation at the school committee?
Yeah.
And she was talking about my memory was, she did research, and this was the best use of the money based on that.
Yeah.
You know, she said, you know, you could do this or that, this was better, because you get a better result.
Yeah.
That was her perspective for the reading part, and I think, you know, obviously, she's a superintendent.
Okay, so I will email that back out to everyone, just so that, and maybe I put it in the SharePoint, that's what I'm thinking. I think I put it in the SharePoint. So I'll send everyone the link to that.
I have one question, Chris, and maybe you can just confirm, it's like a confirming question. We're thinking that these two things that may be funded through a grant, meaning the 52 Ignite seats, and the primary school reading specialist, like, when will we know if those will be funded through those two things?
Yep.
And then can you confirm, like, the other things are going to be continuous salary items that are gonna continue going forward? This is just for 1 year, using this bucket of money.
Yeah.
But these are gonna be continuing salaries. They're not gonna be like, okay, this is it, and then we're gonna fire these folks next year if we don't have the money.
Yeah, and these are questions we should ask. I don't know that I'm going to answer those questions.
Okay.
But what I would say is let's be ready to ask those questions on the 13th, you know, which hopefully, again, is the school committee, the superintendent, and the petitioner, so Mandy
right.
being part of it. She's also part of the school committee. If we do schedule that one, we may have that meeting at the school, just to make it easier. So just be aware of that, be on the lookout for that. So this is what I know as of now. This is information I've actually received from sources. I'm not speculating on stuff. I'm not trying to, assert anything or, but I wanted to kind of just get the facts out to this group as well as, maybe the.
So I know the recording for the school committee meeting wasn't great,
No?
but I was at the meeting on Zoom. And related to your question, Tanya, the superintendent said that, there is a benefit right now to hiring these positions to support the students. Most practically, that was, which, was a simple answer, but it made sense.
Yeah, I think, Chris is right, we should ask it to the folks that are gonna be doing it and projecting it that know a little bit more. So I'll save that for the 13th.
Yeah, and I think you'll see in the presentation that I sent from the select board meeting, some of those positions are already posted, so I think they are moving forward with it. So they have a lot of latitude in like how they can adjust their budgets too, right? So if they make the determination that these are the right things to do, and if we have shortfalls, we gotta cover it somewhere else. If for some reason the 400,000 wasn't passed at some other meeting,
Yep.
There's other avenues that they can.
Through there,
they
it's
can do.
through the school budget.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if they're unknown that pop up, we still have $180,000 in the Finance Committee Reserve Fund that we can allocate for those kinds of things, which is why I'm kind of always been a big proponent of having that money available, because things come up through the year, and I think, especially when budgets are tight, more things come up. So it's just kind of a risk management kind of position to have those.
Great. Thanks, Chris. This is great. Very clear.
There was some questions about, is this money recurring money? Because, the state loves saying no. And just sitting here, I looked it up at our net revenue from the past 10 years of the cherry sheet. And with the exception between 20 and 21, they were practically, 21 and 22, they were about the same amount, but there's always an increase. So even though those line break up differently, it's not a case that we see less money next year than we just saw this year, in terms of, is this recurring revenue or not?
Yeah. The exceptions historically to that have been, and I wonder what 2021 was, maybe it was just COVID craziness, but
Yeah.
we have seen cuts, even mid-year cuts, in serious financial crisis years.
Usually the
So-
earmarks.
So like,
for 1 year.
no, not just earmarks, like literally mid-year cuts to
Yeah,
cherry sheet
10%.
numbers.
Yep.
It happened in 2009, and I believe it happened in I want to say 2003, maybe two.
Yeah, that's a lot more
Yeah,
history than
but
that.
like
Yeah.
post Y2K crash kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the financial crisis in 2008, I believe there were like, and it happened like mid-year, like, we were
Right.
in the budget year, and they said, oh, by the way, you get less. Like, that really was bad.
Yeah, the state revenues were not as high as expected, they had to make cuts, and I think 1 year they just cut 10%, I think it was, for everything, including Chapter 70, and then all the towns had I wasn't involved, but I just remember.
I can't remember the
hearing about it,
specifics,
and
but I remember
not-
it was
It
bad.
was not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
So just for reference, the superintendent's plan that was presented, and I think voted in the affirmative by the school committee, looks like this. So it's those 5 items and then a rationale for each one of them. And like I said, it is in the SharePoint. So it's probably one of the popular items as you go into it.
And the first item, they can do on their own, they don't need anybody, because they have within their, they have it listed as a primary school reader that's coming out of their own funds, so the
Yeah.
school committee can just, I think they already did approve it, so.
Yeah. Again, I'm presenting this kind of secondhand at this point. I do want to wait for the source of truth being the school committee and the superintendent, fallback position, the petitioner, so. But that's kind of where we are in that. All right.
Can I ask you, I don't know if you looked it up, but I know you gave us the school breakdown, but overall, do we know what the overall increase between the governor's cherry sheet assessment and the town?
I didn't pull it up, and I'm not sure I have it. I did pull in the entire cherry sheet, both sides, and then I just looked for where the difference was non-zero. And there were like 3 or 4 items, I think, on the town side, so.
I want to say I heard through a conversation that the net was 471.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that one sheet that you sent
Yeah.
had it was like another 71,000 or something like that.
Yeah, in that neighborhood. And that was like UGA and a couple other things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, I'll pull it up right now. We gotta be careful, though, that you're looking at both sides of the sheet.
Yeah, it was a net number, though.
Okay.
And
The other thing, just, I don't know if people are also tracking, is that the governor has also proposed a supplemental budget, which could potentially also affect, I believe it's programmed for Chapter 70. I'm not 100% sure of that one. So there's potentially another thing,
I think for Lunenburg, based on the
Sum of money.
calculation of $112 per student.
Yeah, that's what
If we plan it for, I think we have 1,500 students, it comes up to like 168.
yeah, that sounds about right, give or take.
So unrestricted general government aid went up about $30,000. And veterans benefits and the elderly went up about $43,000. Those were the other 2 lines, I guess.
Yeah, it was almost $74,000.
73, 74, sounds
Yeah.
good.
So,
And then I think the charges were just those 2 school-related ones that we had on the other sheet. All the other charges stayed the same.
I'll tell you one thing, that the reason I asked that question, because in my mind, the school had to reduce their operations by $761 or $771,000 in order to live within, the allocation that was proposed. Other town, like, we had, I know we are one town, and the pile was divided percentage-wise. But I'm just, I just think of, right now I'm thinking of, keeping level services, providing the services that we have today, next year. And the school department was short by 761 or 700, and so I feel like if we, everything we can possibly address with money that we know is going to be here next year, is less than we need to make it up for next year. With 400,000, that lives, in my head, it's, okay, now we're 371,000 on negative. The next year, we're gonna have to figure out how to, at a minimum, try to come back from that, and possibly more, plus inflationary. So that was the reason I was asking, and how I'm thinking about how we provide for our students.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, so the next topic is committee and liaison assignments. I printed out a copy of, I think, what is all the current assignments. If we want to start going through these, the top ones are actually ones that you get sworn into, right? So they're a little bit, they're not just liaisons that, we can ad hoc kind of go and change. They're ones that, we nominate someone, we approve them, and then, they get sworn in and they're part of that committee. So The first one is the Capital Planning Committee. Now, the Capital Planning Committee is a funny committee because you actually get put on for a 3-year term. And you may get put on a 3-year term when you only have 1 year left in your seat. And we actually found this when Dave was put on to it, Dave Passios was put on for the Finance Committee. He had 1 year gap between when he was on the Finance Committee and when he was no longer on the Finance Committee. And we didn't vote to like remove him from it. I don't even know how you do that. Some boards don't really even follow that, but that is what's in the bylaw or the charter, I forget which one. So the other thing on Capital Planning Committee is the chair is in the room with us tonight. So right now, Peter is the chair of the Capital Planning Committee as the representative for the school, but I think they just voted someone else.
I believe they have.
You're out.
Yeah. I don't think I can be chair if I'm not a member.
Yeah. Who calls the meeting?
You do. You're the vice chair, aren't you?
I think it's Matt. Okay. So I'm the current rep, my term is up. I am okay with getting rid of the Capital Planning Committee. This is one that's a lot of work for about 2 months in like November, December timeframe. We've been a little better of extending that to be a little bit more strategic in nature, look at the 10-year plans, the 5-year plans, as well as just being the Capital Review Committee, which is what I used to call it. So I am okay with no longer being our rep to the Capital Planning Committee. The other one that was on it last year who no longer is on it is Caesar. Caesar, I don't know if it's who got put on from Select Board. And then it's Rob Bowen and Matt Brenner are the other members of that committee. So my point being is that if Peter and I were not on it, there would be 2 members that are kind of returning with some level of history. I would honestly rather someone else do it so I can focus on chair and other things. But is anyone interested in being that member?
I'm on too many committees,
You are.
as you know.
Well, Peter, do you want to do it? Is that, because you have experience, you've been on it for a number of years.
Yeah. So I do have experience. I do actually really like the Capital Planning Committee, despite its quirkiness. It is quite a commitment, as it turns out, on that committee. Not only to be on it, but certainly to chair it because of its quirkiness in terms of available nights and meeting rooms and scheduling and those kinds of things. So my preference would be to pass that torch, but as a last resort, I would do it because I do think it's important, and there's some unfinished business, relative to the track and field project and a few other things that, we got to figure out. It's a really important committee, but I'm not sure, given my new commitment to this committee, that I can do it as well as it could be done.
I can do it. It wouldn't be my preference, but I can also do it. I watched enough meetings to understand how they work. And it's a little different because the school committee comes in with a wish list from the school committee, from the school representative comes in. The other ones work more as independent members. And I don't know, was the school committee always done that way, where they come in with a wish list from?
No, we had gone through a process, even on the finance committee, of trying to ensure that when a department head came forward with any kind of request, a budget or a capital planning request or anything, that if there was a committee that had oversight or some sort of domain oversight, like parks, for example,
Right.
when it came to, I guess they're under facilities.
Facilities, yeah.
That committee had either endorsed or at least seen or
Right.
that sort of thing. Obviously, with the schools, there's more of a direct line of authority with the superintendent and the school committee. And so I think that the school committee, at least during my entire tenure on the school committee, actually voted for a prioritized list for the capital
Right.
plan. Originally, it wasn't prioritized, and during my term, I think we prioritized
Yeah.
it, but it was like voted on.
Right.
And that is, I think we've made substantial improvements over the last few years in actually making sure that they're actually discussed. I think there have been some exceptions, but for the most part, we've swam in that direction.
To try to get that's a good one, because otherwise you have that disconnect.
Yeah, and technically, it is the department head that is making the request. I mean, that, in terms of how our documents are organized. So, the challenge with this committee, and Chris is right, is, first of all, it holds little to no authority, more like no authority. It's basically it's tasked with prioritizing a list that it submits to the town manager, and then the town manager brings forth a capital plan proposal.
Right.
The other thing, though, that, is certainly implied in the documents is that there should be a capital plan that exceeds the limits of 1 year. And we have been terribly unsuccessful in actually landing on some sort of official opinion on anything outside of the scope of a year. And I beat the heck out of Tom Alonso when he was chair, and then when I was chair, I failed.
Yeah.
So, it's a really hard thing to do, given the limited timeline and quirkiness of that committee.
I will say part of the problem, I think, on our time on the committee is that we had 3 town managers
Yeah.
during that period, right? We had 4 finance directors, so I mean, there was
Really
a
hard.
lot of turnover on the staff on that. And I think we were on a good trajectory towards getting to that 5-10-year plan. I think it's critically important that we do have a 5-10-year plan, so that we can really think about the implications of things. And even think about things like we're gonna talk at some point on policy, like that plan should inform us on like, when is enough on the special reserve stabilization fund, right? If there's not enough vehicles out 10 years from now, and the vehicles that are out there are less than what is in that stabilization account, maybe we don't need to continue to fund it, right? So just as an example of some of those things.
I think another area that it's difficult with that committee is that you're supposed to do a 5 to 10 year plan, but you actually never can plan. The way we currently fund capital plan, we never can plan on the revenue
It's
of what
year to
we're
year.
funding.
Right.
So that makes it, this idea of having a 5 to 10 year plan a bit upside down, because some years, I think it was the year of the tax thing around the lakes, I think initially we were planning to fund like $800,000 or something. And you can't make a capital plan, if you don't know how much money you're gonna have and how much these projects, because these projects come with a cost. And there are other ways to fund capital projects, which sometimes are short-term borrowing. The early 2010s, we did that for the fire trucks and the ambulance or a couple other things. That was really, we borrowed for the capital plan. I think there were other smaller projects that we did. So, we gotta be serious about, and you guys it's just really sometimes navigating against the current or against the wave. Because really, but it would be great if we can get at some point a commitment of like, this is how we're gonna get there, especially on the revenue
So I
side.
will say, as a non-chairman on that committee, it's not that hard of a committee. It's only 2 months of like, going to some meetings, hearing from the department heads, and then your only real thing is you put in a ranking at the end of it. That's kind of, so it's not a difficult committee, and it's also one that I think you learn a lot about the needs of the department. So again, if you are chair, there's a lot of logistics that this town needs to make a little easier.
Scheduling a meeting in Lunenburg is the hardest thing. It's ridiculous.
We don't have to make a decision tonight on if you do want it. I would entertain
I
a
mean,
motion on that as well.
if people need to think about it too, I think that's okay. We're not under a
Right.
time.
I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, Tom, are you in town for those 2 months?
What months are they?
It's mostly like November, December,
Yeah,
October, November,
the-
December.
It starts in September, like, it ramps up in October, and usually,
Yeah.
supposedly, we're supposed to be down.
It has to be
done-
submitted to the town manager before the end of the year. That's the annual part of the job.
Right.
Needs to be submitted to the town manager by the end of December, and then obviously there's the timeline that everybody here.
Yeah, so
is
it's,
very
it's
familiar
like
with.
October through December.
I'm around at that,
See?
those, but, you know, to me, I haven't really paid that much attention to it, so I don't, the things I've noticed are sometimes we get the costs wrong. We've had a few of those. So, but I think it's, and we've only, I mean, basically, we fund through free cash and reserves, right? Basically.
And they don't even get into that. It's literally ranking the projects in working towards a
Yeah.
5-10-year capital plan.
I mean, there was a very strong argument, or in some cases heated arguments between members and town managers. We've had town managers with very different opinions in terms of the role of the finance committee relative to the spending plan. Heather thought the capital planning committee. Heather thought that the capital planning committee should have nothing to do with it, and Jen thinks differently, right? So there is a potential aspect depending upon the preferences. It isn't clearly written into any of the documentation, so may or may not be, right? But yeah, to Anna's point, it's kind of a lumpy thing from year to year, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it that much more of a challenge. I would propose that we table this one.
Okay, I'm
And then come back to it.
Okay.
My preference would really not to be on it.
You're on a lot of committees as well, right?
Yeah, but they work with my schedule. Like, I have a lot of flexibility on the days that I'm in.
Okay.
It's really, mostly it's here and the Council on Aging. The other ones, it's like, yeah. But my preference, it's not, because I know it's intense and I have to run a business. It's hard for me to take more time off, unplanned, when my time is towards what I do. It's,
Okay, so we'll defer on that one. Tom, Municipal Design Committee, do you want to stay with
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay. Mike, you're on Master Plan Steering Committee. Are they wrapped up?
I think they're done. I think that's,
All right, we'll keep you on then, I guess, and if they have something.
yeah, I mean, it's just, they meet on Tuesdays, so it's difficult for me. At best, I can call in, because Tuesdays I'm in Plymouth, so.
Okay. The next one was Town Manager Screening Committee. That was actually a pretty fun thing. Peter was on it as well. So there's no need for that, hopefully. So that's kind of one that just kind of pops up, so
And that's not a termed thing, that's an ad hoc.
that's an
right?
ad hoc thing, yep.
So we can revisit that if that ends up.
If we needed it, yeah, yeah. Okay, so now we get into liaisons, boards and committees. I can kind of go through the current, so Tom, you were for select board?
Yep.
All right, school committee was Jean. Now Jean has become a school committee member. So be careful what you wish for on this one.
There's precedence before that one, too. Could I ask a question on these before we kind of get deep into liaisons? Do we have there's a broader question I want to ask, but specific to liaisons, do we have a description of what a liaison is on the finance committee? Or what's expected of a liaison?
Probably not. I think that there's probably a lot of things that maybe need to be understood. You know, like even if you're a member of the capital planning committee, are you presenting what the Finance Committee thinks about the capital plan? Or are you just, hey, we're going to give it to you and you do whatever you want and you don't have to care about what the rest of the members say? So there may be a bigger discussion on, how we, what these roles really kind of mean. To date, it's mostly been, reporting on what's
What
going
happened
on
at a
there.
meeting, yeah. This is something that I personally got into a little bit of trouble and criticism when I was the Finance Committee liaison to the school committee, because I know it's hard to believe, but I have opinions that frequently I'll share. And was, I would always state if I was speaking on behalf of a concern that the Finance Committee may have, or if this was just my own opinion, and I think that that's good practice. But I do think that as we consider some of these things, the expectations of the liaison should be in mind as we approach them. And I'm not saying that we table this portion, but I do think that, I think that there's work that we need to do, kind of like the policy work that we need to do around the expectations of Finance Committee members and what we do and what we operate. The school committee has a document that they call their operating principles, which before I got on the school committee, I was actually, one of those things that I criticized them on was some of the language in that document. When I joined the school committee, I brought those concerns to them and we amended the document. And, I think for the most part, I was able to operate within the metes and bounds of the expectations of a member that had been agreed upon by the members of the committee in advance. And, there have been issues on this committee over the course of the last year that I think bear discussion in terms of what we should be doing, how we should be representing ourselves, individually or as a committee. And I think as well as when we are representing the committee, as we would do in a liaison role, exactly what's expected of that, under a few different circumstances perhaps. So I'm getting ahead of the agenda here because I know we're talking about future topics, but personally I would I think that that's probably something that needs some
Discussion.
discussion.
Okay. All right, I think generally speaking, as an official spokesman for the committee, I think is me as
Agreed.
chair. As it relates to school and select board, there's a lot that goes on. We have the tri-board and all that, and a lot of the coordination that happened, whether it's at the tri-board or even coming up with like, how do we bring a school committee or a school department request through the select board and the finance committee. The chairs of those have a lot of discussions to coordinate what is being discussed and when and the flow of stuff. So, that is a lot of my time as well as kind of coordinating some things like that. So I think primarily what I would recommend as liaison is that you are, you could be bringing a message that, the committee has voted on and we said, as the liaison, can you bring that message? Or, you're really kind of reporting back on, what's kind of going on in that committee. So is anyone interested in being the school committee liaison?
As the person who's sitting in Gene's seat, and particularly if it gives us the opportunity to get through this more quickly, I'd be happy to step into that role.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other, I'll put Peter in that. Okay, Parks Commission was just kind of out of convenience. I kind of knew the Park Commissioner chair pretty well. Tanya, you're now on that committe, so,
Can I do both? Can I bring back information?
You can bring back information.
Yeah, then I have no problem with that.
Okay.
That's awesome. I'll do
I think when Dave was on both, that's how we had it
Okay.
as well.
We did.
Council on Aging is Jay, but Anna, you're on that
Right.
right?
You're on it.
So in the sake of saving time for everyone, Anna,
Yeah, sure.
okay?
Thank you.
All right, library trustees is a difficult one because I don't think they record their meetings, and their meetings, I think, are early. Is there anyone that can kind of go to those meetings? and
How often are
report
they?
back?
During the day, I think.
I'd be interested in what they're talking about in there.
Really?
But no, I mean, they have, we just received an MOU to the Parks Commission on usage that committee put together, and I'd like to know where they got that language and things in there, so. It's not recorded, I did look for it, because I was like, how did they come to
No, I
these?
don't believe it's recorded.
You know? But
They
it's
seem to meet once a month.
during the day? I could have looked that up myself, but thanks, Chris.
In June, they met at 6:45.
Oh, ain't too bad.
Okay.
In April, 6:45. They seem to meet, oh, wonderful, they meet on Thursdays,
So we're all out.
but I think it might be the third Thursday. June 18th. April 16th. So I think they meet the third Thursday at 6:45.
We are 2 and 4.
Second and fourth.
It's on my schedule, so I just,
I think I can fit that in,
Okay.
because I don't think it's like heavy lifting. I just want to hear what they're talking about in there.
I know we've had a lot of discussions between Library, Council on Aging, and Parks
Oh, you're already on it.
that,
On what?
Library? Do you
I
want to be
was.
on it?
No, if you want to go, let's.
No, you can. What's going on in there, Jay? You could stay, and then I can just ask
I
you.
think it's important to go because I think they have discussion.
Yeah,
And I think that there's kind of an operating model that they use
Yep.
that's different than Parks
Yep.
in the Adult Activity Center related to how they charge for things, how they program things. There's been historically a lot of overlap between those three.
Absolutely.
And actually what they offer and how they offer it.
Yep.
So I think that we should be a little bit more in tune with what
Agreed.
that council is doing. I would like for them to actually record their meetings. I think that that's become the best practice for everyone, so maybe I can reach out to
Well,
the
it's more
chair and ask.
It's more transparent if it's.
It's more
recorded.
transparent. I don't know why they don't. I know some people don't like being it, but honestly, I think you should.
I agree.
All right, Jay, do you want to
Jay, you can
give
stay.
that up, or do you want to stay on it?
Doesn't matter.
No,
If
stay.
you, huh?
And then I'm just going to ask
So
you
you're gonna
questions, so
go.
you stay.
Wednesday meeting, Thursdays?
It's-
The odd Thursday?
Yeah.
Jay, you're on it.
All right.
All right, we'll keep Jay.
Suck it up.
Yep.
And if you don't go, I'll call Joanna.
It would be nice if it was recorded, so bring that back when you go to the meeting.
All right, the next one on the list was Sewer Commission. That was you also, Jay?
Yep.
Okay. Green Communities Committee, or maybe it's just Green Committee
Green
now?
Communities.
We didn't have anyone on that one. Is anyone interested?
I can do it. I can,
Tom? All right. Board of Health. I don't know if there's much on that. I think we had that because Evan was on it.
Evan was-
So it
yeah.
was just kind of
I
convenient.
don't think it's necessary.
Personnel Committee is now standing up. Tanya, you're on
You're on
that too,
there, are
right?
you?
I'm the chair.
And personnel?
Yeah, you on
So
it?
you'll know what's going on,
I
right?
do know what's going on.
All right.
I can report, can I be a chair and report back?
You can report back.
Okay.
Yeah. If you find yourself, in a conflict of interest, we won't put you in any kind of conflict of interest.
Okay.
If there's an official FinCom position as it relates to the Personnel Committee, we will
Yep.
discuss it.
Okay.
And I'll represent it.
All right, deal.
Are there any other committees that we should have liaisons with.
What about that, and Jay, I was thinking you and I was thinking this, the 300-year celebration committee that's going on.
No, God bless you if you want to do city council meetings.
Because I know, no, okay. I know you had some
No.
questions about some of the
I
spending.
mean, it's a
and
party
activity.
committee.
Oh, that's why, that's why, okay.
My mother's on that.
Oh, that's right, I went to one of their meetings.
So you can't be on it with your mom.
I'm all set.
Okay, so maybe we don't need representation, it's just, I just know that we had questions on a couple things there during town meeting.
So the other ones that kind of, I'm looking at them now, is potentially stormwater and planning. The planning board doesn't have anyone. Those are like mega
Yep.
long meetings.
Yeah, very long.
And then just the stormwater task force, I mean, we can get reports from Renee too if we need to. I think she's still chair.
Yeah, I mean, what I would recommend on those, there's so little content in the planning board that that would ever be relevant to the finance committee, in my opinion, unless it's dealing with maybe master plan stuff. I think that, again, this is back to that document, like, well, maybe we should expect that the chair reaches out to the chair of those committees quarterly or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just because it just wastes people's time.
Okay.
Is it supposed to be as related to the budget?
Yeah.
All right.
Financial impact.
So the other ones we have are department liaisons. I don't know, this is kind of like, go check out the police department, get a tour of it, and talk with the chief every once in a while. He's a very nice guy. Facilities, DPW. I don't think we tend to do a ton with these, but we can continue doing them if we think it's relevant.
I mean, I think that those are good ones because especially the ones that you mentioned, they don't necessarily have a committee, that we get an understanding of what's going on, right? I mean, I don't know if how you pick those, but those departments don't necessarily have a committee that they work with. So we actually end up hearing less throughout the year.
Okay.
Do
Right.
we, during my tenure here, we had tried to do like an informal session off budget season?
I'll get into
Department
that.
heads,
So
Workshop.
I'll talk about it now as the next topic. But, so for the last year,
Tri board.
we had the tri-board, and the department heads presented kind of what they were looking to do, no real finalized budgets or anything. And that worked well for us, because during budget season, it went pretty smoothly. Like, we were out of here by 10 o'clock, not midnight, on the worst days. I've talked to Jen, and Jen has also reached out to the department heads, and they would like to do the same, present to us, just us, not the whole tri-board this time. And I've also talked to the other tri-board committees, they said it's fine now. Present to us more towards like the winter time frame, like going, like November, December time frame, so that once we hit February, we already know what they're looking for, and the presentations can be very tactical on the actual budgets associated with it, against those priorities that we would have already heard about. So I think that's how we're gonna set up the schedule. I'll work with Jen, I'm working with Jen on how to do that.
Is that just the departments, not the school?
The school has also suggested that I think they'd be willing to do it.
That's awesome.
I mean, relative to the individual department heads of police, fire facilities, I think what you just described is probably adequate, given all the other things that we have to do. I mean, as a member of this committee, I think it's incumbent upon me to build a relationship with all four of those people, and previously I've taken tours of the public safety facility,
Yep.
Within the metes and bounds of my role as a finance committee member, and I think we should all do those on a periodic basis. But I'm not sure that, I'm not sure that a liaison is even gonna be used by those department heads. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a little skeptical of that assignment.
Yeah, I know when I was assigned to some of these, I don't know that they really did anything with it. I know all four of them pretty well now, and I do have conversations with them.
Do you think a liaison from this committee on these four departments would be best used like when they're talking about their budgets and putting it together?
I think the use case would be that, hey, we're hearing the police has something going on with their whatever, right? That, why don't you reach out, Gene, can you go reach out to the chief and get back to us on what they were thinking?
Okay.
I did tour, the facility I think it was last year. It's probably good to go get those tours, tour our buildings and see what's going on and, thank the employees and, all that kind of stuff. All right, so I've kind of heard both. I'm okay with just kind of leaving them blank, and if down the road we think we need something, we can just assign someone.
The other thing we can do is list someone, and I don't think I disagree with anything that has been said here, but give that point of contact for the department heads. Hey, if you need something of cycle, reach out to so-and-so, so it's not as much of a active role, but someone that the department heads might be able to reach out. I know I have helped different people, like reviewing their presentation and give them feedback about maybe information that was missing. And that was helpful to them in that sense, based on my experience here. Like, oh, I think this information might be missing. So I see a value on that.
Okay. I'm okay with either way. I mean, it's just putting a name next to it. So with that, who would want to be police?
Here's another thought. As vice chair, I could be the
Liaison.
inbound, for the use case that you just gave,
Right.
Anna, right? Where it's an inbound thing.
Which it could be useful.
As
but-
vice chair, I could serve that role just to lighten the load on you or consolidate or whatever.
On both safety and facilities and
All of them,
departments?
yeah. I mean, it's not like it's a, every other Thursday kind of thing.
Right.
It's,
Right.
here's my phone number and email.
Right, like they were struggling, I would use it, they don't have a budget for something,
Yeah.
and we have
Yeah, here's a-
$200,000.
Here's a pending problem or something, right?
Exactly,
yeah. Or, I mean, candidly, over a course of a couple of years, I beat up on Bill pretty good on some capital planning committee meetings, and some of the requests.
Yes, you did.
And sooner or later, he came and kind of pre-briefed me on what he was, and we kind of
Right.
talked through some issues in advance, right? It was, now he took that action to do that. It was a good move for both of us, right?
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that I would expect department heads to do.
Yep.
I do like you being the inbound person, very much.
Like what?
I do like you being the inbound person for those departments. They know you.
Yeah, they do.
All right. So that's that. The one we deferred on is kind of an important one, is capital planning, so we'll revisit that.
Tom's gonna watch some meetings.
All right, next, just kind of upcoming priorities and calendars. So we've talked a little bit about this. I've talked with Jen about looking at the policies that we had talked about in a prior meeting. So like how much we should put into, what should be our policy on local receipts, what we should be aiming for free cash, how much we should be putting into the reserve accounts, the stabilization accounts, things like that. So we've talked about in the previous meetings, like 4 or 5 of them. The way we're going to approach it is, she's going to reach out to the DLS reps who have kind of some best practice and some knowledge and that kind of thing. Ask them to do a presentation to us, maybe a presentation to us and the select board. And then we can start to, kind of talk about those, those policies. We're gonna get back towards having quarterly reports that kind of fell off the radar with all the churn in both the school and our side. So Karen and Chris are working up those, and Jen has said she would work on a brief on where we are on all of our capital projects, ongoing capital projects. So as we go through that, I think we'll collaboratively kind of build upon what's working and what's not working, and what additional requests there are over time. Hopefully, it's things that what they're presenting to us is easy for them to create, so we're not putting a lot of extra work on folks. But that should be happening in one of our upcoming meetings it would be the third quarter report, because that just closed. And then calendars, the next two meetings will probably be heavily focused on special town meeting, and then the meetings after that will be on the more regular special town meeting as those warrants start to get put together. All right, we didn't have any old business. We have, I think, 5 sets of minutes. There's the finance committee from 5/28 and 6/11, as well as 3 tri-board sets of meetings. So I would like to get caught up on, especially the tri-board ones. So is everyone ready to approve those?
No.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the finance committee on 5/28 and 6/11, and the tri-board meetings of 1/12, 1/27, and 3/10.
So moved?
Second?
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
No.
And
No.
you'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
You'll
Sick.
abstain too.
Yeah, I haven't read them.
502.
I'm-
Okay, so Peter abstained and Jay abstained on those. Are there any committee reports?
I'm just,
On the municipal building, we're going to be meeting with the select board on the 28th to discuss the committee and get some, I think, some guidance and information to the select board, and I think some guidance from the select board.
That's the 28th of
July. Yep. I
Um,
think it's the 28th. Let me get the
Okay.
agenda.
Surprised you wouldn't have waited until it's a full board.
Dave, our chairman of the committee set it up,
Okay,
and I think he was talking with the town manager, so they did it, and
yeah, no, it's fine, it's just, what's the election in the beginning of August, so they'll get to a full board. Any other committee reports? All right, any actions or topics for future meetings other than what we discussed? All right, our next meeting will be the 13th, and as I said, there will probably be the school committee and Mandy presenting the,
is that going to be our official public hearing?
no, the public hearing will be on the 27th.
Okay. Don't we usually do the presentation in public hearing, or no?
No, we usually do all the presentations and then have a public hearing. Because what I'd like to do is to be able to deliberate on things and then let people hear the deliberations, and then have the ability to come in for the public hearing, having heard, what we have to say. And then the other thing we'll do at the public hearing is we'll take a vote on it, and we'll probably want to write up a paragraph or something related to our position. So not a full finance committee report, but, like a mini report related to our position.
So, understanding the timeline associated with this special town meeting, I know Jen is gonna come into quite a lot to do and figure out when she returns.
Yeah.
One thing we should not lose sight of is making sure that that thing gets advertised, so that it's official.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens to
even
be
know
the
it.
third, it's gonna be difficult
Yeah.
to even get a quorum. If it is the third, I'm not here. And Tim Murphy's not here. So there's a bunch of There's a bunch of stuff
Third
that,
of when?
what?
The third of when?
September.
Third of, oh.
That's the last day it
Was that
can
Labor
be.
Day weekend?
It's the
The week before,
Thursday before
like the long
Labor Day
weekend.
weekend. Yep.
And what's the consequence if we don't have a quorum?
If we don't have a quorum, so the charter says that the chairs need to be there, or their delegate, they can delegate to someone. But the FinCom and the Select Board don't actually have to be there. Town manager doesn't even have to be there.
Oh.
So,
50 people,
what's that?
50 people.
50 people. And I think what would have to happen if Tim's not there, Kathy starts the meeting, Kathy Herrick, and then she has to like get someone in the crowd to be the moderator or something. I don't know. It's,
I thought we elect Rob Bowen as the backup.
we do, but I think that's only for that meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
I think so.
That's interesting.
I think so. And there's some very interesting history as to why that happened.
Oh, I think I know.
Anyways. All right,
So
and
it's
with,
just our practice, is not a bylaw or
I
anything.
think so, yeah.
and with that, I've been bad at watching. Is there any public comment? We don't have a public, so is there any public comment? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:34.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.